should be fun then. Just me. Hey everybody, it's adult story reading time for Literacy to Liberty. Today we're going to read The Conspirators' Hierarchy, the story of the Committee of 300. So this is by Dr. John Coleman. He wrote this in 1991. It basically goes into details about secret societies that are running the world. So yeah, let's get started. I find it pretty interesting that he put that it was important to spread this information. I kind of feel like I should put this on my own book. It's probably going to happen. So, in my career as a professional intelligence officer, I had many occasions to access highly classified documents. But during service as a political science officer in the field in Angola, West Africa, I had the opportunity to view a series of top secret classified documents which were unusually explicit. What I saw filled me with anger and resentment, and I launched me on a course from which I have not deviated, namely to uncover what power it is that controls and manages the British and United States governments. I was thoroughly familiar with all of the well-known secrets societies, such as the Royal Institute for International Affairs, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, Trilaterals, the Zionists, Freemasonry, Bolshevism, and all of the other spin-offs of these secret societies. As an intelligence officer, and even before that as a young student in the course of my studies at the British Museum in London, I had cut my eye teeth on all of them, plus a good number of others with whom I imagined Americans were familiar. But when I came to the United States in 1969, I found that names like the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, Club of Rome, the German Marshall Fund, the Sinai Foundation, the Round Table, the Fabianists, the Venetian Black Nobility, Hellfire Clubs, and many others were at best totally unknown here, or else their true functions were, at best, poorly understood, if at all. In 1969 to 1970, I set about remedying the situation in a series of monographs and cassette tapes. Cassette tapes. Hey, Tracy. Much to my surprise, I soon found plenty of people willing to quote these names as if they had known of them all of their writing careers, but who were not in the least bit knowledgeable about the subject. Yet quite unwilling to state the source of their lately acquired information. I consoled myself with the thought that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I pursued my investigations, pressing on in the face of severe risk, attack on myself and my wife, financial losses, continual harassment, threats, and calumny, all part of a carefully crafted and orchestrated program to discredit me, run by government agents and informers, embedded in the so-called Christian right wing, the identity movement, and right-wing patriotic groups. These agents operated and still operate under cover of strong and fearless outspoken opposition to Judaism, their main enemy. They would have us believe. These agent informers are led and controlled by a group of homosexuals who are well liked and well respected by political and religious conservatives all across the United States. Now, if there's questions or anything, you feel free to chime in, okay? But I heard you eating. It's okay. Their program of lies and hatred, disinformation about my work, even lately attributing it to other writers, continues unabated, but it has not had the desired effect. I shall carry on with my task until I have finally ripped off the mask of the entire secret upper-level parallel government that runs Britain and the US. This book is a part of that ongoing effort. Dr. John Coleman, November 1991. So it's imperative to remember that while we're listening to this book, that it was written in 1991. I was reading it last night and I was like horrified because he goes through like every part of their process and the steps that they're going to take, and it's like, oh great, I'm living that literally right now. So either he was a soothsayer or he has some pertinent information here that we all probably should have listened to a couple decades ago. So, an overview and some case histories. Certainly, a fair number of us are aware that the people running our government are not the people who are really in control of political and economic matters, domestic and foreign. This has led many to seek the truth in the alternative press, those newsletter writers who, like me, have sought but not always found what it is that is making the United States terminally ill. Seek and ye shall find has not always been the case with this group. What we did find was that the people walk in great darkness, mostly not caring or bothering to find out where their country is headed, firm in the belief that it will always be there for them. This is the way the largest population group has been manipulated to react, and their attitude plays right into the hands of the secret government. We frequently hear about they doing this, that, or the other. They seem literally to be able to get away with murder. They increase taxes, send our sons and daughters to die in wars that do not benefit our country. They seem above our reach, out of sight, frustratingly nebulous when it comes to taking action against them. No one seems able to clearly identify who they are. It is a situation that has pertained for decades. During the course of this book, we shall identify the mysterious they, and then after that, it is up to the people to remedy their situation. On April 30th, 1981, I wrote a monograph disclosing the existence of the Club of Rome, identifying it as a committee of 300 subversive body. This was the first mention of both of these organizations in the United States. I warned readers not to be fooled by the feeling that the article was far-fetched, and I drew a parallel between my article and the warning issued by the Bavarian government when the secret plans of the Illuminati fell into its hands. We shall return to the Club of Rome and the role of the Committee of 300 in US affairs later herein. Many of the predictions made in that 1981 article have since come to pass, such as the unknown Felipe Gonzalez becoming Prime Minister of Spain, and Mitterrand being returned to power in France, the downfall of Giscard d'Estaing and Helmut Schmidt, the return to power of Swedish noblemen, and the Committee of 300 member Olof Palme, who has since then been mysteriously murdered, the nullifying of Reagan's presidency, and the destruction of our steel, auto, and housing industries in terms of the post-industrial zero growth order handed down by the Committee of 300. The importance of Palm lies in the use made of him by the Club of Rome to deliver technology to the Soviet Union on the forbidden list of the US Customs, and Palm's worldwide communications network employed to train the spotlight on the phony Iran hostage crisis, while he shuttled back and forth between Washington and Tehran in an effort to undermine the sovereignty integrity of the US and place the phony crisis in the realm of the Committee of 300 institution, vis-a-vis the World Court at The Hague, Holland. And what is in fact an open conspiracy against God and man, which includes enslaving the majority of humans left on Earth after wars, plagues, and mass murder have done with them, is not well hidden. In the intelligence community, it is taught that the best way to hide something is in plain open view. As an example of the foregoing, when Germany wanted to hide its prized new fighter plane in 1938, the aircraft was put on display at the Paris Air Show. While secret agents and spies were collecting information from hollow tree trunks from behind loose bricks in a wall, the information they sought was staring them right in the face. The upper level parallel secret government does not operate from dank basements and secret underground chambers. It places itself in full view. in the White House, Congress, and in number 10 Downing Street and the Houses of Parliament. It is akin to those weird and supposedly terrifying monster films, where the monster appears with distorted features, long hair, and even longer teeth, growling and slobbering all over the place. This is distraction. The real monsters wear business suits and drive to work on Capitol Hill in limousines. These men are in open view. These men are the servants of the one world government, New World Order. Like the rapist who stops to offer his victim a friendly ride, he does not look like the monster he is. If he did, his intended victim would run off screaming in fright. The same applies to government at all levels. President Bush does not look like a dutiful servant of the upper level parallel government, but make no mistake about it, he is as much a monster as are those horrors found in horror movies. Stop for a moment and consider how President Bush ordered the brutal slaying of 150,000 Iraqi troops in a convoy of military vehicles carrying white flags on their way to Iraq under Geneva Convention rules of agreed disengagement and withdrawal. Imagine the horror of Iraqi troops when, in spite of waving their white flags, they were mowed down by the American aircraft in 1991. It's like exactly reading 2001. You know, or 2003. In another part of the front, 120,000 Iraqi soldiers were buried alive in trenches they occupied. Is that not monstrous in the truest sense of the word? From where did President Bush get his orders to act in this monstrous fashion? He got them from the Royal Institute for International Affairs, who received its mandate from the Committee of 300, also known as the Olympians. As we shall see, even the Olympians do not hide their faces. Oftentimes, they put on a show, which could be likened to the Paris Air Show. Even as conspiracy buffs spend their time in fruitless searching in the wrong places and in the wrong direction, note how the Queen Elizabeth II performs the ceremonial opening of the British Parliament. There, in full view, is the head of the Committee of 300. Have you ever witnessed the swearing in ceremony of a United States president? There, in full view, is another member of the Committee of 300. The problem is only one of perception. There are the conspirators who serve the mighty, all-powerful, the Committee of 300. The better informed of our citizens are aware that there is a conspiracy and that the conspiracy goes under various names, such as the Illuminati, Freemasonry, the Round Table, the Milner Group. To them, the CFR and the trilaterals represent most of what they do not like in regard to domestic and foreign policy. Some even know that the Round Table has a big input into United States affairs through the British ambassador in Washington. The problem is that real hard information on the treasonous activities of members of the invisible hidden hand government is very hard to come by. I quote the profound statement made by the prophet Hosea, which is found in the Christian Bible. My people are destroyed for lack of my knowledge. Some may already have heard my expose of the foreign aid scandal, in which work I name several conspiratorial organizations whose number is legion. Their final objective was the overthrow of the US Constitution and the merging of this country, chosen by God as his country, with a godless one world, new world order government, which will return the world to conditions far worse than existed in the Dark Ages. I think I'm gonna stop here for just one moment and talk about how interesting I found that. So some may have already heard my expose of the foreign aid scandal, in which work I named several conspiratorial organizations whose number is legion. Okay, so a lot of people know that Anonymous is legion. And it's kind of interesting that they talk about how their goal all the way back in 1991 is to void the Constitution. I don't know, I found that pretty interesting reading this, just because it seems like that's the inevitable no matter which way you go. So if you're going from the top down, they've already destroyed the Constitution. If you're going from the bottom up, that's my plan. So that's my plan. So let us talk about actual case histories, the attempt to communize and deindustrialize Italy. The Committee of 300 long ago decreed that there shall be a smaller, much smaller, a better world. That is their idea of what constitutes a better world. The myriads of useless eaters, that's what they call us, useless eaters, consuming scarce natural resources were to be culled, killed. Industrial progress supports population growth. Therefore, the command to multiply and subdue the earth found in Genesis had to be subverted. This called for an attack upon Christianity, the slow but sure disintegration of industrial nation states, the destruction of hundreds of millions of people referred to by the Committee of 300 as surplus population, and the removal of any leader who dared to stand in the way of the committee's global planning to reach the foregoing objectives. Tanzania. Two of the committee's earliest targets were Italy and Pakistan. The late Aldo Moro, Prime Minister of Italy, was one leader who opposed zero growth, the population reductions planned for his country, thereby incurring the wrath of the Club of Rome, commissioned by the Olympians to carry out its policies in this regard. In a Rome courtroom on November 10th, 1982, a close friend of Moro's testified that the former prime minister was threatened by an agent of the Royal Institute for International Affairs, who is also a Committee of 300 member, while he was still the US Secretary of State. The meteoric rise of the man the witness named as Kissinger will be dealt with later. It will be recalled that Prime Minister Moro was kidnapped by the Red Brigades in 1978 and subsequently brutally shot to death. It was at the trial of the members of the Red Brigades that several of them testified to the fact that they knew of high-level US involvement in the plot to kill Moro. When threatening Moro, Kissinger was obviously not carrying out US foreign policy, but rather acting according to instructions received from the Club of Rome, the foreign policy arm of the Committee of 300. The witness who delivered the bombshell in open court, Tikan Alam is the name they have given to the plan. Ooh, we'll discuss this after. We're told, yeah, totally. And yeah, feel free to say, hey, feel free to unmute yourself or whatever. If you have something to say, that's totally fine. But yeah, let's see. His explosive testimony was broadcast over Italian television and radio on November 10th, 1982, and printed in several Italian newspapers. Yet this vital information was suppressed in the US. Those famous bastions of freedom with a compelling right to know, the Washington Post and the New York Times, did not think it important to even print a single line of Gorzoni's testimony. Nor was the news carried by any of the wire services or television stations. The fact that Italy's Aldo Moro had been a leading politician for decades and who was kidnapped in broad daylight in the spring of 1978, all of his bodyguards butchered in cold blood, was not deemed newsworthy, even though Kissinger stood accused as an accomplice to these crimes. Or was the silence because of Kissinger's involvement? In my 1982 expose of this heinous crime, I demonstrated that Aldo Moro, a loyal member of the Christian Democrat Party, was murdered by assassins controlled by P2 Masonry, with the object of bringing Italy into line with the Club of Rome orders to deindustrialize the country and considerably reduce its population. So Italy has lost more people than China during the COVID epidemic. So they are definitely being targeted. Or is that not the case anymore? I don't know. It was the case at one point in time. Moro's plan to stabilize Italy through full employment and industrial and political peace would have strengthened Catholic opposition to communism and made the destabilization of the Middle East a prime goal that much harder. From the foregoing, it becomes clear just how far ahead the conspirators plan. They do not think in terms of a 5-year plan, One needs to go back to Wishop's statements about the early Catholic Church to understand what was involved in the murder of Aldo Moro. Moro's death removed the roadblocks to the plans to destabilize Italy, and as we now know, enabled conspiracy plans for the Middle East to be carried out in the Gulf War 14 years later. Italy was chosen as a test target by the Committee of 300. Italy is important to the conspirators' plans because it is the closest European country to the Middle East, linked to Middle East economics and politics. It is also the home of the Catholic Church, which Wishop ordered destroyed, and home for some of Europe's most powerful top oligarchical families of the ancient Black nobility. Should Italy have been weakened by Moro's, yeah?
Can I say something?
Yeah.
One of the things that we have to be careful with when it comes to this subject is a lot of the events that happened back in those days that he's discussing about and stuff like that were just as much false flag events as the things that are happening these days. So one of the things I found that a lot of people that are doing research and stuff like that, they look back on those days and they, read about the different types of, events that happened and stuff like that. And they don't know how to differentiate between the meaty stuff that actually was something that was like one of their mess ups or something that actually happened to them or something like that. Other than that, everything else was just, like they hired some people to do whatever, and they were still doing that hybrid TV show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, you and I have discussed how even great wars seem to have been staged, in entirety. When I was reading this last night, I was thinking to myself, a lot of these situations that he's talking about, it's his own obsession with what's going on around him and trying to figure out how to make it more than anything. You know what I'm saying?
It's him taking chunks out of it. And so one of the things I was wanting to say though is that those PDFs that I sent you in your other account, excuse me.
I never got those.
Oh, you didn't get them?
Mm-hmm. No, I didn't get them. So I looked, and the last thing I had written to you was the last thing I had gotten. So I don't know if I got.
Well, those are the actual. There's the actual recorded minutes of the meeting. All right.
Okay.
Of what that guy is talking about.
Okay. All right.
The people that were actually involved in it, which was Chaim Weizmann, there was Weishaupt, there was Bernard Baruch, there was several, there was a lot of them, and that was during their first Zionist Congress meeting in Basel, Switzerland. There was 300 of them. All right, that's shocking. That's the committee of 300 right there that he's talking about. All right, now the thing is, it's on their way to the Russian czars and stuff like that through or a Russian princess or something like that. And the crazy thing is that whenever you read it, every single aspect of it is so absolutely true and right on. And what he's doing is it's a 3-day speech that he's doing to these members, okay, because it's a new founded Congress. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's bringing them all up to speed as far as to what they've accomplished, what they're doing right now at that moment, which was in like 1890 or something like that, and what they were planning on doing, and explaining.
So let's touch on that for a second though. 1890, right? So you're talking 1890. They've been doing this for hundreds of years.
Well,
and
that's the thing.
It was the first Congress, right?
And it ends up being even more than that, because what it ends up being is that There had been several things that had happened before that, like the Frankfurters and stuff like that, where they thought that their Messiah had come, and stuff like that. Well, apparently what this whole thing actually boils down to, whenever you just throw everything in the pot and boil it and see what comes up to the top, all right? I mean, every single thing, it ends up being that in Jewish prophecy, whenever the what do you call that guy? Oh, well, whenever Jesus was talking to Mary, okay, that one Mary, and she said, "Hey, can my son sit next to you on your right side, or whatever, of the kingdom whenever we get to it?" And he's like, "Woman, I don't think that's the kind of kingdom. This is not the kind of kingdom that you're thinking. It's a heavenly kingdom. It's not, because the Jewish prophecy was that they would have an earthly kingdom,
right?
And that they would be the leaders, they would be everything, and everybody in the world would be their slave, and they'd be ruled under King David like king." All right. Now, what they did, and it's crazy, but turns out that the Bible is actually a recipe. All right.
Yes, it is.
And what it is,
that's a great way of putting a recipe. We're going to put a dash of this frequency and a dash of this frequency, and let's see exactly what we get out of that. I was actually just discussing that on somebody else's page. Of course, all of his friends laughed at me. I've actually personally held an Illuminati Bible in my hands, so I know for a fact it does exist.
Well, definitely. I'll tell you, this is the thing, is that they believe that, because one of the rabbis said it perfectly. He said that the whole God made the world in 7 days thing, all right, that is code for them being their own God, is going to be creating their world in 7 days. But the thing is, the 7 days thing, this is where it gets slick. The rabbi said, to God, 1,000 years is but a day. All right?
Yes.
But a day.
Yes. So we're talking 7,000 years.
7,000 years. On the seventh day, they rested. They worked and busted their tail for 6,000 years. 7,000th year, and then they could rest. So right now, their year is 5781. If that tells you anything. So that's why whenever you see the video of that one rabbi, I forgot what it was. He was the chief rabbi of Israel, and he was with Benjamin Netanyahu, and he was telling him, he said, you need to hurry up because we need the Messiah now. We need the Messiah to come now. And he's like, and Netanyahu is saying, we're doing everything we can. And there's all these different things that are supposed to take place first that they're supposed to do. And so what it turns out to be, that really what's going on is that it's all been a big ruse throughout the whole thousands of years now. Even the dysphoria of the Jews was fake. And it was the Jewish oligarchs that were already in power at that time.
Hold on a second. I have something, but it's in behind my table. Okay. You're talking about
yes.
Right?
Yep. And it was fake. And it was all so that they could utilize it right now as part of the plan. So that way it looks to Christians like, oh, it really happened. The dysphoria that was supposed to be in the Bible, and it was prophesied.
So I was actually discussing how the Christian Bible, what I think the Christian Bible is, because I've experienced it. I've literally held an Illuminati Bible in my hand where they talk about homosexuals. So, so this guy, when he mentioned that here a few paragraphs ago, they actually their scripture is about how the lineage becomes homosexual. They actually discuss it in the Illuminati Bible. So that's why I talked about how the Christian Bible is actually the Bible that got the frequency manipulation right. Okay, that's like the in layman's terms, that's basically how I describe it. Jesus
Mhm.
is the only person where they manipulated him through frequency, and he did everything that they planned. And so then the next person who they do that to, who does everything that they plan, will be the Messiah. Okay, and
Right.
that's why they're trying so hard, to get a Messiah. They're constantly, constantly, constantly cycling through
They have to
Jesus's.
groom them. They have to find him.
They have to groom them, they have to find them, they have to it's like a trick, and they actually make bets on this. They make bets on whether that specific person is actually going to become Jesus, or if
Yeah.
they'll become a Holy Ghost.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've specifically and personally dealt with this, so I find it very intriguing when he talks about all of this, because it does
Well,
nail everything right on the head in regards to my own personal experiences, you
well,
know?
I'll tell you what's going to really, because I hate to even give these things to you. Okay. I really do. I hate to give them to you because the first time that I read it, the very first time that I read it, I fucked my life up.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, this shit
Because
fucked my life up so
it,
badly. I like sat in my bedroom for over 18 months. I didn't move for 18 months. My mom
I
was like,
left my
"You're about to
girlfriend.
go back outside."
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what it needs to be. But whenever you read these things, the actual minutes, this guy
Yeah.
discussing, like admitting everything and telling you why, telling you the psychology, why we're all gonna fall for it, and why everybody does this, all this stuff. He even explains how they started the masonry, the whole Masons thing, and why, and what keeps the Masons
Eh,
running and what keeps them
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. At this point in time, um, I honestly don't believe that there's a way to fight it. Even when you're trying to fight it, they have actually planned for your role in
Yep.
their little game. So you're like that little piece in Risk where they're like, okay, yeah, I need this now. And so even when you're trying to fight them, like I'm trying so hard to fight them, it doesn't even matter because I'm still part of their
Yeah,
game.
he even mentions that. He
He
mentions
mentions
that
it.
in the
It's
thing.
laughable. It's literally
Well,
laughable,
he
So
said he said that they've already got things set up so that if anybody tries to do any little upstart to try to mess them up, they've already got it all.
I've literally had somebody tell me I've already like, no, it's not happening for you. And I don't care. I don't give a fuck, you know?
Well,
I
they've
don't
got
care if it
other
happens
things.
for me. I don't care about me, That's
Well,
it's
what
absurd
they'll
that they
do
think that
though,
that's the case.
they'll use you as a martyr.
Yes, well, that's the plan, and so I've even said this, because I have kids, so I know it's not like I just willy-nilly decided to come out and start talking about all this shit. I sat here for like 4 months, like, oh my god, I have all this information. It's really just gonna keep quiet about it. This is, and then it got to the point where I couldn't sleep because it was just in my brain. And so I just had to like word vomit it out. And so I continued to do that. And this is kind of like my own little personal therapy, you know, to kind of get through the fact that, yeah, I don't know if I have a choice. And it's arrogant to say, martyrdom, but that's the case. I'm literally going to put myself out there, and I taught them, and
Well,
that's what I've been doing. And I don't know what else to do besides sit down and shut up. And I can't do that. Like my very
I
being.
feel the same way you do, and I understand completely your feelings. And the problem is though, is that what they do is they've got an army of Einsteins. They've got an army of
Yes, they do.
Sigmund Freuds behind them. And
I've been thinking to myself, because they've got, there's people online who are like, the divine isn't real. What if it's not? What if it's just AI?
well,
That
yeah,
whole idea of whatever is perfectly measuring this earth could very well be AI. I mean, there's no, I don't know. I didn't get that far. I chose to die, you know. The rise or death of Darcy. I chose to die. I chose to become a holy ghost. I didn't really feel like hanging out with a bunch of guys under a stone owl, you know? And so I did have a lot of information revealed to me. Um, but I didn't go all the way, and I'm happy with that decision. I don't regret that decision. That's not a decision that I regret. So I was talking earlier about this book, the guy may not have all of the answers, and he may not have outside evidence, but you can't really get it. There's no way to really get it. So I think he's doing a good job in this with what he does have available, and the idea behind reading this is not so much believing every single little tidbit that he has to say, or following him to those stretches where he makes an assumption to a conclusion. The idea is to realize that there's a group of people out here who are controlling everything. That's the real idea. They're controlling everything, like
And,
everything.
and I mean, there's nothing that they don't control. I mean, literally. And I don't even know how they do it. But the weird thing is though, is that these people can just write a freaking song that quick and put a melody to it and send it to their contacts and have it be a hit
Yeah.
thing tomorrow. Beyonce can go record it tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to somebody today about how music is a little like it pulls on me emotionally a little bit too much. And so sometimes like I can't listen to music because I understand that it's all has an objective. For
Yeah,
a long time, books were like that for me too. There was for a long time for me, I'm obsessed with books. So for a couple of years there, I didn't read any books because I realized that a lot of the books are for an objective. For an example, I walked into a Barnes and Noble a few years ago, and while I'm being shown all of this information is being revealed to me, I go and look, and there's children's books about, like, for example, Tesla's attic. And it's about a kid who finds a Tesla machine in his grandfather's attic, and it's right there out in the open, the frequency manipulation. They're literally giving it to children in children's stories.
yeah.
It was heartbreaking for me to see that. And so for a long time, I didn't want to read anything because I knew it was it's all planned, it's all fake, it's all, but I feel like at this point in time, we probably need to brush up a little bit. on reading.
Well,
We're a
that's
little
so far ahead
behind,
of us. Yeah.
you know?
Like
So
right here, listen to this part right here, what this guy says, okay? Today, I may tell you that our goal is now only a few steps off. There remains a small space to cross, and the whole long path we have trodden is ready now to close its cycle of the symbolic snake, by which we symbolize our people. When this ring closes, all the states of Europe will be locked in its coil as in a powerful vice. The Constitution scales, and I knew you'd like this part, or wouldn't like it, or whatever, something, I don't know, you'd be interested. The Constitution scales of these days will shortly break down, for we have established them with a certain lack of accurate balance in order that they may oscillate incessantly until they wear through the pivot on which they turn. The Goyim are under the impression that they have welded them sufficiently strong and that they have all along kept on expecting that the scales would come into equilibrium. But the pivots are hemmed in by their representatives who play the fool, distraught with their own.
yes, they play the fool.
Yeah.
It's literally like they have to agree that they are going to do these things while playing the fool. And
Yeah.
Donald Trump, for example, does that like exceptionally. And he
Oh, yeah.
did it well, in my opinion. A military coup was installed in
Yeah.
Washington.
He was their trump card.
So perfect. He was their trump card. You got it. Okay, so in talking about the Constitution, I'm going to skip forward a little bit in my reading because he goes into, what we're going, like these little, nuanced.
Well, let me tell you this. Well, let me tell you this real quick, because this is the part. This is the
Okay.
best part of it. Is right here. Is just, it'll just take a minute. Is He says, in order to incite seekers after power to a misuse of power, we have set all forces in opposition one to another, breaking up their liberal tendencies towards independence. Remember how me and you were talking about that? To this end, we have stirred up every form of enterprise. We have armed all parties. We have set up authority as a target for every ambition of states. We have made gladiatorial arenas where a host of confused issues contend. A little more, and disorders and bankruptcy will be universal. Babblers inexhaustible have turned into oratorical contests the sittings of parliament and administrative boards. Bold journalists and unscrupulous pamphleteers daily fall upon executive officials. Abuses of power will put the final touch in preparing all institutions for their overthrow, and everything will fly skyward under the blows of the mad mob. All people are chained down to heavy toil by poverty more firmly than they were ever chained by slavery and serfdom. From those, one way and another, they might free themselves. These could be settled with, but from them wanting, they will never get away. We have included in the Constitution such rights as to the masses appear fictitious and not actual rights. All these so-called people's rights can exist only in an idea which can never be realized in practical life. What is it to the proletariat laborer, bowed double over his heavy toil, crushed by his lot in life, if journalists get the right to scribble any nonsense side by side with good stuff? Once the proletariat has no other profit out of the Constitution save only those pitiful crumbs which we fling them from our table in return for their voting in favor of what we dictate, in favor of the men we place in power, the servants of our agentur, Republican rights for a poor man are no more than a bitter piece of irony, for the necessity he is under of toiling almost all day gives him no present use of them, but on the other hand robs him of all guarantee of regular and certain earnings by making him dependent on strikes by his comrades or lockouts by his masters. The people under our guidance have annihilated the aristocracy, who were their one and only defense and foster mother for the sake of their own advantage, which is inseparably bound up with the well-being of the people. Nowadays, with the destruction of the aristocracy, people have fallen into the grips of merciless, money-grinding scoundrels who have laid a pitiless and cruel yoke upon the necks of the workers. We appear on the scene as alleged saviors of the worker from this oppression when we propose to him to enter the ranks of our fighting forces, socialists, anarchists, communists, to whom we always give support in accordance with an alleged brotherly rule of solidarity of all humanity, of our social masonry. The aristocracy, which enjoyed by law the labor of the masonry, or labor of the workers, was interested in seeing that the workers were well fed, healthy, and strong. We are interested in just the opposite, in the diminution, the killing out of the goyim. Our power is in the chronic shortness of food and physical weakness of the worker, because by all that this implies, he is made the slave of our will, and he will not find in his own authorities either strength or energy to set against our will. Hunger creates the right of capital, to rule the worker more surely than it was given to the aristocracy by the legal authority of kings. Boom.
That right there is actually why I continue to fight despite being like effing exhausted. Their goal is to exhaust me to death.
Yep.
I don't care. I will continue fighting until my death because that is, well, all I really know how to do at this point, you know?
Yep. And the
So,
sad thing is that all these people are just getting exhausted listening to their
yeah,
shit on the radio, on the TV, on the
yeah,
internet, and they just
absolutely.
keep
Well,
posting it to each other and making each other exhausted.
that's why I just block people now. I have my energy to, like, I literally remind myself, Rachel, like, $90 every 30 minutes. If you're going to waste your time, remember that's how much it costs you, you
It's
know?
ant poison.
Yes,
They grab and they bring it into the nest and share it with the rest of them.
yes, absolutely. And there's no reason to do that when we all could just be talking about them.
But they don't know this. The people out there, the civilians, they don't know that that's what's happening. That's why I keep trying to tell people that all the time. You see my
Yeah,
posts.
yeah,
try to-
absolutely. So the goals of these secret elite groups are very evident today. So I was reading this and I was like, these motherfuckers, like I was so pissed reading this. So what are the goals of the secret elite group? The inheritors of Illuminism, the cult of Dionysus, the cult of Isis, Catharism, Bogomilianism, this elite group that also calls itself the Olympians. Okay, so when we talk about the Olympians, who I'm talking about, okay, you've got like cute government, like federal government, and they're literally like bottom rung. They're literally like they're actors. Okay. So you've got Hollywood and they're actors, but you've got the federal government. And I was actually gonna make a meme of this. So you've got the federal government, and then so they've had something called the Council on Foreign Relations for quite some time now. Okay. And that is basically like a one world order, version one. It's a conglomerate. It's a group of people from all kinds of different countries and different positions, and they come together and they work to have that one world order. And then they continue moving up. There's the trilaterals, and then there's the Bilderbergers, and then there's the Council of 300, the Olympians. Okay, so they're way up there. They're out there in the open, but you're not going to see them reading from a screen on TV during a press conference. Okay, so they've been doing a lot of things around it's around the Constitution. One of the things that I wrote about for my thesis for my political science degree was the Security and Prosperity Partnership of America and the North American Competitiveness Council. Now, the North American Competitiveness Council is actually a group underneath the SPP, and they are 33 corporate CEOs. And those corporate CEOs were in charge of creating policy around Congress, dealing with like healthcare and money and all kinds of things. So they like specifically just came out in the open and said these corporations are ruling America. That was all the way back in 2005. Okay. So what are these elite groups, the Olympians? Okay. What is their goal? This elite group believe that they are equal in power and stature to the legendary gods of Olympus, who have, like Lucifer, their god, set themselves above true God. Okay, so
Atlas shrugged.
I'm sorry?
Atlas shrugged.
Yes, Atlas shrugged. So when I talk about frequencies a lot, right? So this is kind of how I know that they think that they're above God, because we didn't have this forever. This earth, whoever created it, that's who I think is the true creator, whoever that is. It is not these people. I've actually discussed it kind of in like a Viking mythology kind of situation where Odin is incapacitated. They have found a way to incapacitate Odin, very similar to in Dogma, where God is stupid and he takes a human form and he goes and plays skee ball, and a demon knows that he's going to be down there on the 3rd of April, and so yeah, he goes and beats the crap out of him with a couple of hockey sticks and he gets put in a coma. And that's kind of how I think of real God now. And he's been incapacitated by these groups, this Olympian group, and they think that they're above him because they've taken what he built. They hacked it. And so that's kind of, hold on. What happened? Am I still on here? Okay, good.
Yeah, you're still there.
I clicked on something. So I'm technologically illiterate. I shouldn't do that on.
So they've done that. And so this is how they enslave everybody. It's not necessarily just through TV. TV is super entertaining, but TV has a frequency, and we've called this program MK Ultra. That's the name that we've given this modern day program of manipulation, of frequency manipulation in our brains. This is how they actually totally control us. This is how they go through saying, no matter what, you're gonna be a slave to us, whether you think you are or you're not. This is how we're going to do it with everybody. So their first goal, which they believe is to be implemented because of divine right. Okay, these goals are to be implemented because they have the divine right to implement them. Okay. One, a one world government, new world order with a unified church and monetary system under their direction. So I actually was yelled at, how dare you ruin that operation? Because I created the revolution here over the weekend. And so how dare you, Rachel? How dare I? How dare I? So I'm literally doing pretty much, I'm trying to do the exact opposite that they want to do. And it just seems like I'm doing everything that they actually want to do. So, yeah, it's funny. Anyway, not many people are aware that the one world government began setting up its church in the 1920s/30s, for they realized the need for a religious belief inherent in mankind to have an outlet, and therefore set up a church body to channel that belief in the direction they desired. 2, the utter destruction of all national identity and national pride. 3, the destruction of religion, and more especially the Christian religion, with the one exception, their own creation mentioned above. Control of each and every person through means of mind control and what Brzezinski calls technotronics, which would create human-like robots and a system of terror, besides which Felix Dzerzhinsky's Red Terror will look like children at play. So what I just discussed, that's what they're talking about for point number 4, okay? 5, an end to all industrialization and the production of nuclear generated electric power in what they call the post-industrial zero growth society. Exempted are the computer and service industries.
That's what they're calling it. That's what that Great Reset bunch of people over in Davos are calling the fourth revolution.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about it here. We've got huge technology influence today in society, and who are our essential workers? Yeah, they're the service workers. So it's awful.
Real quick, another thing that I want to add in there also is that that they do want everybody to be their servants. All right, they do want everybody to be under servitude, but they don't want white people.
Yeah.
And one of the rabbis was explaining this, and he said that the reason why is because white people think on the norm too logically, and it just takes a lot to have to control them. Yeah. And so what happens is you've got a lot of women and a lot of people of color and stuff like that are more emotional, and they let their emotions control them. And so they're very easily controlled through their emotions. And you can even control their emotion about something, tell them something to make them mad about something, come back and tell them that it was a lie about it, and they'll still hold on to that feeling about that subject that you, even if it's a lie.
I've literally lost friends, and I attribute it to them paying for being lied to. These people are saying lies that they paid for in college, so they have like that value added to it that they, I paid $2,300 to be lied to. Fuck you, how dare you tell me something different? That's how I attribute it, instead of, just, yeah.
And then they justify it. Then they
Yeah,
justify
they,
it because
they'll-
because
they
because somebody else says it too. So if somebody else says it too, then heck yeah, it
it
must be.
must be true. It
Yeah.
has to be true because somebody else said it. This
Same
is
with the news.
one of the things that I've found very fascinating over the last few months is how well they have shut down dissent. It's like it's just gone. You're not allowed to have any dissent whatsoever. Otherwise, you're a lunatic. And
Yep.
I find that very interesting just because of my debate past life, in debate it's actually required to have two differing viewpoints, like otherwise you don't have debate, it no
Right.
longer
But they
exists.
don't want that anymore.
So that's what I find really interesting. They don't want it and neither do other people, so it's like, damn. All right, here's something I find really interesting. This was written in 1991, okay? United States industries that remain will be exported to countries such as Mexico, where abundant slave labor is available. In the news just today, they talked about how Ford is going to take their Ohio plant and move it to Mexico. So this is
Well,
still
that's what
going.
NAFTA and all that was about.
Oh, NAFTA is all about that. So was the SPP and the NACC. They were totally about this.
Yep.
Unemployables in the wake of industrial destruction will either become 1991, you guys, opium, heroin, or cocaine addicts, or become statistics in the elimination process we know today as Global 2000, also known as Agenda 21, also known as, what is that, Agenda 2033 now, and da 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 da. They've got all these names for it now. Okay.
Plus, if you're among the ones that don't want to do the COVID stuff, you won't be able to participate in life anymore. Also, so
Yeah, absolutely, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, me
One,
too.
I'm like, darn. I don't get to socialize with assholes anymore,
Idiots.
Oh, darn, I don't have to tell myself, just don't stab this motherfucker at Easter brunch. Okay, Rachel? I'm serious. One, legalization of drugs and pornography. Okay, we are literally an idiocracy. Two, depopulation of large cities, according to the trial run carried out by the Pol Pot regime in Cambodia. It is interesting to note that Pol Pot's genocidal plans were drawn up here in the United States by one of the Club of Rome's research foundations. It is also interesting that the committee is presently seeking to reinstate the Pol Pot butchers in Cambodia. Three, suppression of all scientific development, except for those deemed beneficial by the committee. Especially targeted is nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. Particularly hated are the fusion experiments presently being scorned and ridiculed by the committee and its jackals of the press. Development of the fusion torch would blow the committee's conception of quote unquote limited natural resources right out the window. This also goes hand in hand with the false notion of, limited abundance and why we're all still working to survive despite having $26 trillion in real land and property that we've actually paid for. So this is false. It's fake. Everything's a stage.
Even the fact that they think that they're saying that the oil is going to be running out soon or something like that.
Absolutely.
That's not even true at all.
It's all fake.
Yeah.
All of it, everything.
But
okay.
The only thing that really that they're trying to really do is that, and this is something that I can kind of get on board with a little bit. It's a little bit crazy, but I don't want this world to be overrun with people. Okay, I don't want overpopulation. I don't want a bunch of idiots running around.
So here's how I feel about it, right? I would like to keep as many people from dying as possible. I think that we can reduce populations through other means, but really the people that really need to go, they're
really need to go.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I have any control over that, so I do think that there's going to be a huge culling, unfortunately, especially in discussing the how can I say this without making sure that this video doesn't get kicked off of YouTube? Especially with the new digital gene therapies that can be programmed in 2 years once a vast majority of the general population is digitized. Okay, so they even very clearly say that it doesn't treat it, it doesn't prevent it, and
Yeah.
we can program these proteins. So
Yeah.
these are the two things why I don't care. I'll never ever 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 take it. And it's just I'll die. It'll be a thing.
Yeah.
All right. So number 4, which I also find very pertinent, caused by means of limited wars in the advanced countries and by means of starvation and diseases in third world countries, the death of 3 billion people by the year 2000. They didn't get there, but they are working pretty hard at that right now. So we have to keep in mind that they hacked this program. So they're learning from the end, not the beginning. And so they haven't figured out all of the ways to perfect this. I think that they've gotten really close, and that's why they've pushed this out finally. But I think that there's still some serious flaws, and they're trying to figure that out. We are kind of like in the first trial run of everything that they're doing all at once. They're doing it all at once. Um, so these people are called useless eaters. The Committee of 300 commissioned Cyrus Vance to write a paper on this subject of how best to bring about such a genocide. The paper was produced under the title The Global 2000 Report and was accepted and approved for action by President Carter for and on behalf of the US government, and accepted by Edwin Muskie, then Secretary of State. Under the terms of the Global 2000 Report, the population of the United States is supposed to be reduced to 100 million by the year 2050, which is exactly on par with yesterday's celebration of 50% of the country getting the jab. So, to weaken the moral fiber of the nation and to demoralize workers in the labor class by creating mass unemployment. So that's they look at that. All they had to do, bam, shut down the economy, mass unemployment. As jobs dwindle due to the post-industrial zero growth policies introduced by the Club of Rome, demoralized and discouraged workers will resort to alcohol and drugs. The youth of the land will be encouraged by means of rock music and drugs and rebel against the status quo, thus undermining and eventually destroying the family unit. Oh no, this is one thing that he did kind of get wrong, because today's rebellion is actually uplifting the family unit. So that's one thing that he kind of got a little wrong. It's actually, they've made it mainstream to say that it's terrible to have a connection with people in your nuclear family. I find that very sad. Anyway.
One thing I want to say real quick is always remember that what this guy is talking about, a lot of it is just his idea of it. And so it doesn't mean that they got anything wrong at all, because, you know what I mean?
I'm just saying his hypothesis.
Yeah.
Darn.
Yes.
It wasn't quite on the ball there. But I'm okay with that. Like I said, I'm okay with that, because the overarching picture is that he's like 99% right.
Well, they play the long con.
Accurate.
Yeah. And so
yeah, they play the long card.
Yeah.
You know, he was talking about 14 years. I'm like, that is nothing to them. It's nothing to them. 14 years is a blip.
And well, in fact, the last bit of research that I've gotten into, because I've been doing this for years, been digging so deep into all this stuff for years, because my ADHD part, where I get hyper focusing, has actually dug into all this stuff, and I see patterns in things very easily and very quickly. So and The only things I can remember are things that I'm very interested in. So the things I'm very interested in, I remember all of it. And so everything that I read and I see something and I go, oh, that was something I read back there. Let me go look at that. And then I can find out. And that's what I do with patterns. That's how I find patterns in everything. So anyways, what the whole Jewish thing itself is part of a false flag. The whole Jewish religion, period, is part of a false flag. It has nothing to do with an actual religion. And in fact, what's funny about it is if you go and look at all their religions and try to find out, what they're all about killing. They're all about death. They're all about violence. They're all about all kinds of bad things, but yet they promote it right next to, Jesus stuff and Christian stuff and things like that to make it look like it's a holy thing. But they were a group of people that weren't really actually very smart in the very, very beginning. All right. And that's what's crazy about this. Okay. They all of a sudden became smart and nobody realized how that happened. All right. But that guy Hermes Trismegistus, he's the one that came up, but he's not really the one that actually came up with, but he was of the order of a certain group of people that were way below, before any of the Jewish stuff came up. In fact, back whenever Jewish Hebrewic thing or whatever, first started, the role that, or the group that Hermes was in was ancient already. Like ancient, what we consider ancient, it was what they consider the same kind of ancient way back then. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's incredible. When I look back on my historical, what they've written down, okay, historical knowledge of politics and religion, it's very clear that it's all a story. It's very clear that it's all a ploy, and so I that's why I can't fall in line with them, because I'm offended. I think that they expected me to be emotional. Oh my gosh, you're my saviors. But in fact, I was like, you guys are some creepy ass motherfuckers. Like, do you understand how creepy it is that you're using this to control everybody on the planet? Like, oh my gosh, this is so creepy, and it creeped me out.
The craziest thing about it is this. They were doing alchemy way back when, all right? They knew that the main substances of our reality was mercury, sulfur, and the salts that come from all that, from the mixtures and stuff like that.
Yeah, the salts. Yeah.
And
So when you heat an element up, for people who don't know about salts, when you heat an element up, it actually sweats. It sweats salts, and they have specific salts for those elements when they're quote unquote sweated out. So that's what we're discussing.
Even whenever something, whenever like an element is dissolved through acid or something like that, it even create anything that creates something from to those elements, like sulfur.
An elemental change. I have the alchemy symbol tattooed on my foot for sulfur. I am highly allergic to sulfur.
Me too. Me too.
Are you? Oh my gosh! And that's how I know that they're spraying everything, because
it'll give me seizures.
I have to take Benadryl every day. I have to take Benadryl every day because of what they're spraying outside. So I know for a fact that they are spraying, just because I'm allergic to it. Now, I was talking to somebody about sulfate toxicity, because I'm allergic to sulfur, sulfites, sulfates. Okay. And so I'm allergic to all of them, even though they have like different chemical compounds for some reason. I'm still allergic to all of them. And I was talking about how they've been putting sulfates in all of the food. And what people don't realize is we are actually under severe state of sulfate toxicity. Like as a country, we are. And they've scrubbed sulfate toxicity symptoms from the internet. This is very difficult to find. You can find something on magnesium sulfate, and it looks like I don't know what I'm talking about. But if you look at the symptoms of magnesium sulfate toxicity, you'll actually see that this is happening to everybody all over the country. And it's because they literally talk about poisoning people and suppressing all scientific development that doesn't assist them in killing everybody. So
Mhm.
there's scientific development that red dye is safe. There's scientific development that sulfates in your Cheetos is safe. Like, it's a sulfate.
They put sulfate in your drugs
They
as
put
an
them in
adjuvant.
everything.
As an
Yes,
adjuvant. Yeah.
yes, absolutely. No, I literally told the doctor that I was allergic to sulfates. I had a chest issue and he prescribed that to me. And I was like, you do understand I just wasted $60 on something I can't even use. Like I
Mhm.
would, like why didn't the pharmacist tell me this either? It's on there. $60 for I can't use it. It's literally sulfate. And they keep telling you it's okay, but if you go look up like respiratory symptoms from sulfate toxicity, it's
Yeah.
like it's COVID.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so they continue on. Let's see here. To keep people everywhere from deciding their own destinies by means of one created crisis after another, and then managing such crises. This will confuse and demoralize the population to the extent where, faced with too many choices, apathy on a massive scale will result. In the case of the United States, an agency for crisis management is already in place. It is called the Federal Emergency Management Agency, whose existence I first disclosed in 1980. There will be more on FEMA as we proceed. Well,
And that's who, handed right over to us. Handed
yeah,
us right over to them in that
yeah.
emergency thing. And we're still under it right now.
We're still under, well, so that's how they get away with tyranny, is by just declaring a medical or an emergency.
Medical tyranny.
Yeah, they declare an emergency. There's nothing in the Constitution about emergencies. So then the Supreme Court gets to, interpret if the Constitution allowed for an emergency. Oh, looks, it does. Okay, well, we can't really intervene here anymore. And, that's the end of that chapter. And that's how they've gotten away with all of this, is declaring an emergency. So go fuck
Yep.
yourselves.
I know, right?
To introduce new cults and continue to boost those already functioning, which includes rock music gangsters such as the filthy degenerate Mick Jagger's Rolling Stones. I love this. I want to read it in an old man voice, seriously. Such as the filthy degenerate Mick Jagger's Rolling Stones. He isn't wrong, though. A gangster group much favored by European black nobility, and all of the Tavistock created rock groups, which began with the Beatles, to continue to build up the cult of Christian fundamentalism begun by the British East India Company's servant Darby, which will be misused to strengthen the Zionist state of Israel through identifying with the Jews through the myth of God's chosen people, and by donating very substantial amounts of money to what they mistakenly believe is a religious cause in the furtherance of Christianity. To press for the spread of religious cults such as the Muslim Brotherhood, Muslim fundamentalism, the Sikhs, and to carry out experiments of the Jim Jones and the Son of Sam type of murders. It is worth noting that the late Ayatollah Khomeini. Hold on. Nope. It's not, what does it say?
There's something I had to, before I forget it. This is a paper on pseudotyping HIV vector with the spike envelope protein of SARS-CoV for studying viral tropism, immunology, and gene therapy applications. That's what they did with this COVID thing. That's all what this thing is.
Yeah, no, my mom, she's a surgical nurse, and shout out to her. That's actually That's actually why I was late here. Because I was on the phone with my mom and I love her, and you just never know when you're gonna not be able to talk to your parents anymore. So I chatted with her a little longer than I had planned, and that's why I was late here today. But she's a surgical nurse, you know, and she is very, very, very well versed in medical technology. And she said that a year ago. She's actually the person who was inspired to call me and tell me that I should try ivermectin for when I had COVID last year. So from there, you know, I had a young lady. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Black nobility. Yeah. Yeah, I had a young lady who I considered to be a pretty good scientist. She was supposed to work with me with under the Colorado Cannabis Institute, and that never happened, obviously. Um, and she, along with several other people, left in a mutiny. But she actually discussed Japan and ivermectin, and so that's why I wrote about ivermectin on March 22nd of 2020, you know? So just like not even a week after we were under lockdown, I personally came out discussing ivermectin and its ability to treat, you know, what's
Well,
going
they
on
can
around
use
us.
mullein.
What?
They can use mullein.
Yeah, no, there's a ton of natural
That's
treatment
wild
back
stuff
there.
right there in the yard.
Yeah, yeah, no,
I've got five plants outside right now.
yeah, you know, I was working on treating symptoms back then, you know, so I was working with a ton of herbs, and then my mom had mentioned one, but I'm allergic to it, so I couldn't take it. I have a lot of allergies, but so that's how I ended up coming up with ivermectin. And yeah, you know, they have suppressed that information so well that even here when people were like, no, you cannot take that, it doesn't treat it, it was the fifth used treatment in the entire world and considered to be the number one most effective and safest treatment by doctors on the front line. So while they were using it all over the world, here in America, no, because we've got to cull down to 100 million people. So to press for the spread of religious cults. We went through that. To export religious liberation ideas around the world so as to undermine all existing religions, but more especially the Christian religion. This began with Jesuit liberation theology, which brought about the downfall of the Somoza family rule in Nicaragua, and da 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 da. So we understand that. 4, to cause a total collapse of the world's economies and engender total political chaos. So I would have to say that that's happening in real time. Thanks, guys. To take control of all foreign and domestic policies of the United States. They have done this down to a T. It is pretty amazing. You know, and we've got people so enamored with distraction and so depressed with how they've been able to interact with other people that they don't want to fight it anymore. You know, everybody's just done. They're like, whatever, I don't care. Give me my beer. To give the fullest support to supranational institutions such as the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, the Bank of International Settlements, the World Court, and as far as possible, make local institutions of lesser effect by gradually phasing them out or bringing them under the mantle of the United Nations. So the way that they did this was not like they didn't come in and like march us all through. What happened is they figured out a way to create cohesive policy that everybody just voluntarily follows all around the world, thus eliminating local leadership to a very fine extent. You know, for example, Florida is the type of leadership that didn't go all the way with this. Colorado, however, is a perfect example of how the local leadership said, I'm totally on board with your agenda. Let's get this done. And they did it and they followed it to a T. And the courts have actually worked extra constitutionally to ensure that that continues to happen. Penetrate and subvert all governments and work within them to destroy the sovereignty integrity of nations represented by them. We just went over that. Organize a worldwide terrorist apparatus and negotiate with terrorists whenever terrorist activities take place. It will be recalled that it was Bettino Craxi who persuaded the Italian and US governments to negotiate with the Red Brigade's kidnappers of Prime Minister Moro and General Dozier. As an aside, General Dozier is under orders not to talk about what happened to him. Should he break that silence, he will no doubt be made a horrible example of in the manner in which Kissinger dealt with Aldo Moro, Ali Bhutto, and General Zalul Haq. So they've, for example, a couple weeks ago up in Boulder, they had a terrorist attack, and obviously this was a double F, that's what it was. All right. And they took him alive and they're going to negotiate if he wasn't already part of their plan. And because you have to keep in mind, the FBI continues to just openly admit we knew about these people. And you have to remember that there's a secret language going on with the same verbiage that we use. Let's talk about Black's Law Dictionary, right? They use the same words, but they have completely different definitions. Okay, the FBI does this, right? There's ABC organizations, they have organizationalese, just like there's corporatese, just like there's legalese, So when they say we knew about this guy, what does that translate to in layman's terms? Crazy.
We groomed him.
We gave him drugs,
Yep.
He finally snapped.
Yep.
All right, this one I find particularly interesting considering my passion for education and literacy. Take control of education in America with the intent and purpose of utterly and completely destroying it. Much of these goals, which I first enumerated in 1969, have since been achieved or are well on their way to being achieved. A special interest in the Committee of 300 program is the core of their economic policy, which is largely based on the teaching of Malthus, the son of an English country parson, who was pushed to prominence by the British East India Company, upon which the Committee of 300 is modeled. Malthus maintained that man's progress is tied to the earth's natural ability to support a given number of people, beyond which point Earth's limited resources would rapidly be depleted. Once these natural resources have been consumed, it will be impossible to replace them. Hence, Malthus observed it is necessary to limit populations within the boundaries of decreasing natural resources. It goes without saying that the elite will not allow themselves to be threatened by a burgeoning population of useless eaters. Hence, culling must be practiced. As I have previously stated, culling is going on today using the methods mandated in the Global 2000 report, also known as Agenda 2020, also known as 2033, also known as, listen, you guys, they're killing us off and we need to do something about it. Come on, what are we going to do? All right,
that's kind of the name. They throw all kinds of names.
They've got all kinds of names for it.
That's because what happens is whenever they throw so much confusion into a subject like that, it makes people that are just learning about these things just go, "Fuck this!
Fuck this!
It's stupid. It's just a bunch of stupid things."
Yeah.
That's how they're able to do it.
Well, that ends our reading for tonight. Okay, no more reading from the book, but I did find that the goals that they have are just, they're like, it's like 2021. Here you go. They're right here. That's literally what's happening right now. There's no way around it. And this dude wrote it in 1991, so this is 30 years ago. And either he is like this incredible soothsayer, or they wrote this shit down and they're following a plan. Like, I don't know.
Well,
One of
that's
them
the,
sounds a little realistic to me.
it's
You
the
know,
weird thing though, is that
there obviously.
yeah, well, I mean, the weird part of it though is that this this thing that they've got going on here is so much like a crazy ass matrix. It really is, that even the stuff that we're reading right now and learning right now and thinking like that may have been planted by them in the first place.
Honestly, it's incredible. And I think about this all the time. We are in a closed loop information system. There's no way around it. What I do know is somebody's controlling us. You know what I'm saying? And they do have an agenda. And they come out and they talk about the agenda. And then they move forward with the agenda, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's literally like, hey, you stupid people, we're gonna tell you right now, and you're just gonna sit here, you're gonna drink
You're
your
gonna soak in it.
you're gonna love it. You're gonna just love it. They
You're
literally
gonna have nothing. You're gonna
you were
be
gonna
happy.
you're gonna own nothing and you're gonna love it. You know? And this is the play, and they've honed this at this point now, you know. So back in the day, I said, I think that they hacked the system, and they are not that smart. Okay, they appear to be smart because they've hacked the system, when really what they did was they probably stalked God, because they're creepy motherfuckers, you know. And they found the tree that he lives in, and they just, they've tied him up. And that's legit how I think of things in regards to like my religion, you know.
All right.
But
So listen real quick before I forget, because I do have this forgetting thing. I
Okay.
just sent you all those PDFs on the
Okay.
on what I'm talking about.
Cool.
And I'm telling you right now that once you start reading these things, you will not put them down, because you're gonna see everything that you're talking about, but you're gonna see it on such a different level whenever you're reading this stuff, and it's going to just start clicking, and you're gonna be like freaking out. And one of the things on this thing, all right, is that Hermes Trismegistus, all right, the Kabbalion. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I would
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I would like copies of these PDFs, please.
Okay, all right.
I'll get them. I'll get them, and we'll
Go
put
to
them up.
tracysart.com, and I just posted them on your message thing, like my art, like in the chat.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
tracysart.com.
I'll get them out, Yona.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yona's got an account on this on tracysart.com.
Oh, okay.
Because
Oh,
it was
wow.
Internet Defense. It was Internet Defense Force, but I changed the name.
Oh, Tracy's art.
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I was gonna ask you. I was like, what is
Oh,
his
man.
new website? Because you asked me to go to your website, and then I tried, and it wasn't there. So
Yep.
and then I got pulled into a million different directions, but cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Tracy's art. I'm gonna look it up.
And just so you, for spelling, it's TRACYSARK.com.
There. Oh, Tracy's Arc.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
hold on. Yeah, hold on. Tracy's Arc.com.
Right. And that's kind of a play on the fact that like Adam and Eve, the whole Noah's Ark type thing. Okay. The whole Noah's Ark thing is that maybe what they did was they had the DNA of all, the male and female of every single creature, and brought them over past the, because there might have been a real flood, you never know, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Well,
then-
I've been out in the desert and I've found seashells out there, so it's not
Yeah.
Oh yeah, me too.
me. Yeah. No, I have like thousands-year-olds.
Yeah, shark's
Like, they
teeth,
turn to
all that
dust,
stuff.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is that you never know. They could have, because we never know from back in those days, back before, we don't even know what kind of technology was going on back before all the history that we know about. You know what
Absolutely. No, they even admit it, right? They used to admit it. I remember I found a fascinating statistic
all the way back when I was in elementary school, and it was that the military is about 500 years ahead of us in technology. They said that all the way
Oh
back in
yeah,
like
no doubt.
1993. No doubt. So
Yeah.
like, you know, they give us little
I
hints.
saw I saw a few things. It was incredible.
Oh yeah, people think I'm crazy when I'm like, dude, they're doing the voice to mind. Like
Oh, yeah,
there's
they're-
not a
oh,
doubt in my
yeah.
mind.
Oh yeah,
You
they're
know?
already doing that because they're using the 5G stuff that's like up in the 300 gigahertz stuff, and it's called
Yeah.
directional frequencies.
Yes.
And it's the same thing that they're using that's gonna enable them to be able to. They're already doing it now to where they can make your
No.
skin burn.
Yes, no, Tracy,
Yeah.
you know, 6 years ago when I tried to talk about this, people were like, you're a schizophrenic. You're a schizophrenic. And I'm like, no, it's a legitimate weapon. Like it's a real
I could show
thing.
you my timeline from back to 2003 or 2004 or something like that, and
Yep.
show you how many people were laughing at me and calling me a kook for all the
Yep,
stuff
yep.
I'm trying to tell
You know,
people.
I got called insane today.
No,
I got
I
called
remember,
every
somebody
day.
talking about that.
You know? Yeah, no, it's a real thing, you know.
Before 2010.
Yeah, no, you know, it's a real thing and there's no doubt about it. And I like I said, I've had some personal experiences and my heart does go out to people who, you know, are struggling with that. And I don't really care at this point. I didn't fall into like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared of them. I'm like, fine, motherfuckers, bring it on. Like, I'm tired of it, like, you know. And it's like what I told somebody today. I'm going to be ashamed as an ancestor if I just sit back and do nothing, you know. And I can thank my mom for encouraging me to come out, and I actually appreciate her for staying off of this new profile, because if there's one thing about my family I have to say is that they're quite overprotective of me, you know. And so watching a bunch of guys, you know, do what they're doing on there would drive my mother insane, you know. But at the same time, I've told her over the years, like, I can't help how I look, you know, and I'm tired of being ashamed of it, you know. And it's not like I'm gonna go flaunt it all around all over the place, like I'm gonna be Nicki Minaj and on the stage at the Grammys next year or anything like that. Good Lord, no. But you know, I'm not going to be ashamed of what I look like anymore, you know, and hide that from people. And just whatever they do with that information, that's on them. And I'm just going to continue loving my super awesome friends who are on the same page with me. And I hope you all deeply in my heart. You have no idea. You guys are the ones that keep me going. So thank you.
Thank you. I
Hey,
appreciate
Yona,
Yeah.
Yona, I'm going to upload these things to your message to your chat on Tracy's Arc.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Oh, one of them is the book. One of them is the actual book that Google literally did photocopies of the actual book of the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion.
Oh man.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be a sub reading for this. You know what I'm saying? This is
Yeah.
something that we'll be able to do voluntarily, like, you know, on our own time, you know.
Yeah.
Hey Yona, do you have any input about tonight's reading?
Not on the spot.
Did you find it pretty interesting and spot on about what's going on today?
I did. I had a couple of things that I was driving when I first came on, so I was just more or less listening. I wish I'd had the opportunity to talk when
Hey, you're totally allowed to do that. You know, I had told Tracy before you got on. I probably should have done that when a couple people jumped on, but you're welcome to, like, you know, in the chat, you can say, hey, I have a question, and I'll stop reading. You know what I'm saying? Or you can like raise your hand, and I'll totally.
Of course, but I was like switching between this and the.
Oh yeah,
the
for
GPS.
sure. Just for future reference. you know,
Right.
just for future
Of
reference.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the thing is like all the information that we can squeeze, and there's so much information out there that we could never squeeze it into all this.
And I would
So-
never
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
arrogant enough
And
to say that I have all of the answers. That's not even close to the
Well,
truth.
yeah, and if
What I'm
anybody
saying,
can,
so
even I
everybody's
don't.
input is important.
I've been doing this for over 20 years now.
Yeah.
I've been down in the rabbit hole and got camping spots. You know what I mean? I know about things that people don't fucking know about. know
I
things.
got, yeah, no, I got, you know, the fast track education, you know, I got like a 30-day, like, this is the crash course, you know? And so unlike you, you know, where you have been like enthralled with this information and you've done a lot of like actual research, which I appreciate so much. I was like, oh my God, these people are creepy. And then I ran off to the mountains and
Well, hey, listen. One thing that you can remember about what when using me as a like a dictionary or a reference point or something like that. Remember
my
that
Dewey Decimal System.
Well, I've been here for I've been in this thing for so long now that it's like I see where they're, you know, where people are hashing up or hashing up old stuff that was debunked years ago. That was only
Yeah.
part of the shit that they were throwing in there to try to confuse people. And so people are still pulling that stuff up and bringing it in, you know. And so it's like, I was there. I got to see all this stuff. I got to see when it was debunked. I got to see who. I got to be able to wrap my mind completely around all those things, you know, and be able to understand. And
Yeah, that's
and,
super valuable, you know.
yeah, and so it's like I'm watching and I'm seeing people getting, you know, duped by it. It's almost like they just kind of like threw some herpes things out there and just everybody keeps stumbling over the damn things. You know what I mean? And catching them. You know,
Oh
just
my God,
time and
yeah.
time and time and time again. You know, over and over and over again. Everybody just keeps getting it, and you can tell by they're sitting there and they'll go, "Yeah, look at this! I found out this and that." And now they got these big fucking herpes blisters all over them, and you go, "Oh, I see where you've been."
Yeah,
I know what you
absolutely.
did, you dumbass.
yeah.
That wasn't.
Yeah.
You found the lies. You found some lies in there. They were the bullshit. That's what you.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Like, no, I'm
uh,
telling you, man. I'm telling you,
I think
it's true.
I think that's why like I go more into like the reading list is more about like what they actually do more than like who they are. You
That's
know what
why
I'm
when you read
saying?
the protocols, you're gonna. Matter of fact, before you do read the protocols, just for me, this is what I want you to do for me. All right. I want you
Okay.
to go online and I want you to type into Google the Zionist protocols. All right. And I want you to count the different websites that they have thrown up on there to try to keep people from reading it. It's illegal for a Jewish person to read it. They're not allowed to fucking read it. All right. The thing is, they have, I mean, that one thing, they even took it to court and a Jewish judge claimed that it was a forgery. All right. He didn't say fraud. He said a forgery, which means that that's a copy of the real thing. All right. And so he kind of threw a little monkey wrench into it for him, but that's what they keep telling everybody. It's a forgery. It's just fraud. It's just an anti-Semitic bunch of bullcrap and none of it's true. And if you did read it, you'd see that it was just not even true. And you couldn't even, you know, bring any of that to anything that you see in America today. And it's a lie and this and that. Millions of them, millions of websites that pop up that where they're trying to keep everybody from reading them. They don't want them. And so whenever people do read them,
They've done this with Black's Law Dictionary, actually.
yeah.
They have changed a myriad of definitions in Black's
Yeah.
Law Dictionary. So Black's Law Dictionary has its various editions and they changed the definitions in each of those editions, but they've taken it a step further in their online edition of Black's Law Dictionary. And now they've like completely whitewashed legal definitions. And so what's happening is you lose more of a legal argument with each time a definition is changed. Is how that works in their legal colonialism, which is why they keep coming out with new editions. It's to erase your legal precedent right to argue a certain way. And so when they put a condensed version of, for example, standing, the definition of standing online, it makes people think that there's just a little bit to it, when actually standing as a definition is fairly long in Black's Law Dictionary,
Uh-huh.
in the actual like published version of it. And so they continue to do this. They continue to whitewash things repeatedly. And I've found it very fascinating here recently in trying to look up things like sulfate toxicity, the opinion on Roe v. Wade, for example, because Roe v. Wade isn't about abortion. It's about
That
government's
was
vested
Judge Black, he was
interest.
a Jewish guy.
Yeah, it's about the government's vested interest in a future taxpayer.
And it's even
And they
worse
go
than
with
that.
it. Yes,
It's even worse than that. It's a sacrifice. It's a
is.
blood sacrifice for all the Jewish people that were involved in the thing, because that's what they do. They do blood child sacrifices
It
to
is.
Molech. And that's
Oh
what it
yeah.
is.
Oh yeah, they absolutely do. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And I've told my mom, people use the term Jews because like they don't have anything else. I don't necessarily think of them as like, that, me
Yeah,
personally.
yeah.
So when I talk about them, I just use the word cabal, because
Yeah.
the dark occult,
Yeah.
the people practicing
Well,
this.
that's the
dark
problem.
magic.
Is that's why people don't know anything about what they've been doing.
What do you
Because
mean?
nobody will speak their name. People don't speak
Yeah.
their name.
Well, it's because I don't
know
say
why.
it.
I know why.
I don't say it
know
because
why.
people will instantly shut you down.
I know.
And
I
so
know.
to me, the message is more important than naming them. For
No,
me, I
because
want
the message
them to
loses. The message loses its power
I get
because
that.
then it can be translated into Muslims are doing it. Anybody else is doing it. If they say cabal or Illuminati, then these people believe that
Well,
it's
this is
just
the
just
thing.
some
That's
shadow
I
thing
don't-
that nobody knows.
But I don't believe it's just Jews. I believe that these people are specifically
You have to
practicing
realize
dark
they're not
magic.
really Jews,
That's what I'm saying. That's what
but
I'm
they
saying.
call themselves Jews.
But they call themselves Jews, And so that's where the confusing issue is for me. You know what I'm saying? Because they're
Yeah.
not. And
But
I don't
it's-
want people to think that I think that,
Well-
my grandmother, for example,
Right.
is part of them, because my grandmother's
Right.
not, like my great great uncle, and my
Right.
family lineage goes back. My grandmother's like thousands of years, Rachel.
Right.
Of course he doesn't know that, but like, my family's been Jewish for the history of my family.
Well, my family is too. You know what I mean? But the thing is that if we don't say something, if people don't say something about this thing, if they're afraid that they're going to get shut down, then it's just going to keep being little hideaway meetings where everybody, the myths of the propaganda war against Israel.
Thanks, Grandma.
But I'm telling you, it's like what it is there's so many different layers, because it's just like that Tikkun Olam that I'm telling you about. All right.
Yeah.
They figured out how to make the new generation of Jewish kids continue on with the Zionist program by making it sound like it's a just and righteous program, okay, to save
Yeah.
the world.
Yes.
But it's not. It's really just the Zionist thing repackaged. And because otherwise they look at it like this. The children, they don't know a whole lot in the beginning. So if they're introduced to this first, they might get a conscience. If they know that that's what this thing is about, they might get a conscience. But if they believe that this thing is righteous, that we are searching in the darkness for that lost shard of light that we have been searching for all this time, that we're as Jewish people are supposed to be responsible for bringing all these shards of light together in the end, you know, and that is what they say it is. And so these kids are going,
Yeah.
oh, I've got to be a lawyer, I've got to be a judge, I've got to be a congressman, I've got to be all these different things. I've got to go to college and do this stuff so that way I can be in a position to be able to make a difference with all
Yeah.
this stuff. And then
Yeah.
they get in there and then they do the Tikkun Olam strategy, but they don't realize that you can't perfect an already perfect world.
Right. That's
You
right.
can't make a more perfect world.
Wait,
You can't
wait,
do
wait. Hold on, Tracy. What do you mean by that?
it. Because
All
it's a
right, 'cause
closed loop.
you and I know what we're talking about, right? But what about all of the people who are going to watch this on YouTube? No, we are
It's a
talking
closed loop.
how the world is a closed, flat
Loop
frequency system. And in
Right.
order for that to happen, you think of it like when you go to a concert and you have somebody who's doing the soundboard, they're tweaking every little bit of sound that goes in and goes out to make sure that there's no feedback. And so
Yeah.
they are perfectly measuring the frequencies for that concert. Likewise,
Right.
the earth is a closed, it's flat frequency. You do not hear any feedback when you get the frequency of love. You don't get any feedback when you have the frequency of fear. Therefore, the earth is a perfectly measured system. It has been
Yes.
measured and it has been weighed. Whoever that's by, that's who
Right.
I consider to be the creator.
Right.
You know, and I don't believe it's the people who are in charge of it now. That when they talk about man-made weather, global warming, you know, I think of them. I don't think of us, you know, driving around in our car. I think of them. I think of HARP. You know, I think of them manipulating it and manipulating our minds. I think about psychological manipulation, and they are capable of doing that. Even the Pope recently came out and said, hey, if you guys keep on sinning, there's going to be another great flood. He literally goes against the biblical, you know, promise from God and says, I'm better than God and I'm going to flood the earth if you don't stop this. And
Oh, yeah.
so, you know, when we talk about them thinking they're above God, they truly believe that they're above God. And, you know, I don't. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm speaking out, because I don't, and I don't fall in line with Legion, you know.
Right.
I don't
Right.
fall in line with that. And that's, you know, and I know
That's what those the what do you call those things? The demons that were in the pig, where that Jesus apparently cast out and made him
Yes.
made him jump over the cliff, was Legion.
Yes.
And,
Yes,
and what's
my
funny
name is
is,
Legion.
and,
Yes.
and the weird funny thing is that Jesus is Jesus in Greek, which means swine.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting upside down
Yes,
thing.
weird thing.
Yes, it is very weird. So you know, I have issues with that on my own, like, personal religious philosophy. I can't I've never been able to, and I've always been very much a pluralist. So it's been pretty hard for me to go up to people and tell them that they're not allowed to talk about their own divinity or that they're wrong, or anything like that, because honestly, I don't know. And that's their inner monologue that's talking to them. And truly, you know, I know how personally offended I would get if somebody told me you shouldn't listen to your inner monologue. You know, and so that's kind of why I don't talk about religion in that way. You know, what was that, Yona?
I said that's God.
That's God. You know, that's the divine talking to us. You know, whatever somebody considers that to be, it would be hyper arrogant and excessive hubris of me to say that they're wrong in their interpretation. I really, you know, and so that's why I don't need to discuss that with people online, because
that's the end of it for me. And I really, hearing somebody say that somebody else is right or wrong on something, I don't know, it's arrogant in that regard, in that regard, whatever your consciousness tells you. But I'm inclined to tell people that they're totally wrong about politics or the way that they that's my opinion, and I'm not gonna like stop them or anything. I'm not going on like a brigade, like, oh, drinking's bad. Although I did used
You
to
better
be,
believe it.
yeah, or I used to be in like Students Against Drunk Driving. I used to do that stuff. I used to be like way into it, but that's because I have alcoholics in my life, and I've experienced that personally. But I just want people to be able to live freely. Really, that's it.
Yeah, and that's one of the draws to controlling other people, and like even through avenues like that, it's still a form of wanting to control, and that gets perpetuated.
It does. It really does. And I don't know, one of the things that we discussed, I don't know if you saw it, Yona, but it was about how exhausting they want the world to be. They want the world to be exhausting so that people don't think. And I'm honestly exhausted doing this.
Oh yes.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
can
I'm
relate.
honestly exhausted. So the idea of controlling 7.5 billion people, or however many survive the great culling,
And they do it so easily.
they really do. But that sounds exhausting. I don't want to be the man behind the curtain. I couldn't imagine the amount of effort that they put forth to enslave us. What was that?
Certain areas are more exhausting than others, I've found.
Yeah.
Big surprise, Orlando, for example, is very, very exhausting. That whole metro area. Yeah.
I really, with
Disney.
Yeah, there's a lot of occultism going on there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Oh,
a whole lot.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Walt Disney.
Yeah, Disney,
Oh, yeah.
Disney World. I don't care. You guys can't do anything. No, there's not a thing worse that you could do to me besides making me live in this tyranny.
I know, right?
So honestly, I've gone through like hundreds of acute kidney failures, and I truly don't believe that there's any worse pain in my entire life. Pregnancy was like a 3, like labor was like literally a 3 compared to a kidney failure that you are awake to experience. So most people who have kidney failure, they lose consciousness. You have a kidney shutdown and your brain literally shuts down so you can reboot. But because I have 3 other kidneys, I have been awake for most of my kidney failures. And I must tell you, so I must tell you, it's exceedingly painful. And they could rip off all my fingernails and I'm not sure, I might just laugh at them. You know what I'm saying? Like I've truly been prepared to handle an excessive amount of pain. So I'm not really sure what they could do to me at this point. Personally, me, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I do continue to speak out, and I can't stay quiet about it anymore. This is just too much. It's too much at this point. It's literally illegal to breathe freely. Like,
Well, this is something I figured out, all right? Because I can't tell you the amount of times that I've been exhausted like that throughout my tenure in this whole study thing. Okay, because I mean, once I got into once I read that thing, it was I dug so deep into everything, and I went to depths that most people could never even imagine in this thing, and my problem is that I can't let it go. I can't let it go. Even at night when I try to sleep, I can't let it go. I'm thinking about it. I'm always thinking about it. Everything I see, I'm going, look what the hell they're doing there.
Look at what they're
Look what they're
doing
doing
there.
with that. Look
Yeah.
what that's going on. Oh,
Yeah.
why can't these people see exactly what that is, what they're doing right there, you know, and all this stuff like that. But then I realized, because I went through those periods where I was like, I couldn't tell anybody, because everybody was just, nobody wanted to hear it. So I thought about it, you know, and I was like, I'm like, okay, there were probably times in this period where I've just got so exhausted that I just wanted to die, because it just looked so
Yeah.
bleak. It just looked terrible. Every time anybody that, you know, before I realized what they were trying to really do, you know, as far as like, you know, I would see, like, even for that very fraction of a second with Obama, whatever, what's his name, that Reverend Jesse Jackson guy, he goes, whenever Obama gets in there, them Zionists won't have the power that they had. Right
Sure.
on TV, he said this, okay? He had to go back and apologize.
Yes, he
They made
did.
him apologize.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God. Obama's just playing bullshit with these people. He's going to get in there and he's going to wipe their fucking slate clean. You know, that's what I'm thinking even in the beginning. And then, no, that's not what it was.
So I was not, and never did, appreciate Barack Obama. I had I was in college at the time, and I had a lot of friends from being in politics. They were in favor of Barack Obama. I actually had a friend who was his campaign manager for a county. Okay.
Uh,
And so he had a bunch of tickets to go see Barack Obama speak, and he gave them out to a bunch of us, and we all went to downtown Milwaukee, and we were like, cool, we're actually going to see a politician speak. This is pretty awesome. And seeing Barack Obama speak was actually like, wow, this entire system is full of utter and absolute bullshit. I am done. I literally got the nickname cynic from my fellow classmates, because I was like, you guys, this is all fake. It's all fake. It's all fake. And here is how I know. Because I went to go see Barack Obama speak the day of the Virginia Tech massacre. Okay. And he came out on stage and started talking. And I was just like mouth agape the whole time, because he started out with joking. And he was like, well, and I can't do Barack Obama's voice, but he, well, ha, ha, I was planning on having a party, ha, 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 when a bunch of people got killed today, ha, ha, ha. And like literally had the audience chuckling about the Virginia Tech massacre. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And I'm like, my best friend was sitting there with me, and I'm like, are you guys listening to what the fuck I'm listening to right now? And they're like, laughing at the Virginia Tech massacre? And I'm like, he's fucking laughing at the Virginia Tech massacre, you guys. And so, he was like, yeah, I had this whole speech planned, and I can't say it now. And so this was Barack Obama speaking off the cuff, which you don't do with Barack Obama. He totally needs to have the teleprompter. He has to be told what to say, otherwise he it's like George W. Bush. So he goes on to talk about his daughters, and his speech was about 6 minutes long. Okay, so Virginia Tech massacre, and then he goes on to talk about his daughters and how he's glad that they weren't at the Virginia campus and that they weren't going to school yet, because it would scare him and stuff like that. But then he compared the Virginia Tech massacre to the parting of the Red Sea, and he rambled on in this parable. Yeah, that was my favorite. That was my face right there, okay? Where I was like, how does the Virginia Tech massacre have anything to do with the parable? And so the voice in my mind is just getting like higher and higher pitched, where I'm like, I don't really understand what's going on. Like, no joke, and thankfully he like took me out of that, because the speech was only 6 minutes long. But we're walking back to our cars, and I'm like, you guys, like, what the fuck did
I just see here? Like, I got to get high. That was mind-blowing, you know, to watch a leading presidential candidate talk like that, you know?
Yeah.
Because he was off the cuff and he couldn't talk and
Okay.
party the way that he had planned to and be celebratory. And oh my goodness, you know? And I went to go look that speech up on the internet, and it's completely different than what we all
Wow.
remember, you know? And
Wow.
so this was my awakening, you know, that year. Let's see, I heard him speak in like March, what it was, April 27th, 2007, April 2007. It was like April 16th, 2007 was the date of the Virginia Tech massacre, I believe. Okay. And I went to go vote for Ron Paul in the primary earlier that year, and they had disenfranchised me. They wouldn't let me vote. They told me, you know, I wasn't going to the right precinct, even though I went with my sister and her boyfriend who lived with me at the time, and they were able to vote super easily. So they kept sending me from precinct to precinct to precinct, and pretty soon it was 8:30 and all of the polls were closed. And so I was disenfranchised, and it was the second time I had ever tried to vote. And so that was it for me. I really wasn't interested anymore. I was married for the 2012 election, and he pretty much demanded, you must vote for Mitt Romney. We have to defeat Barack Obama. And I was like, dude, we live in Illinois. We live in Chicago, and they called Illinois for Barack Obama in 2008 with 0% of the votes counted. Zero. Okay. I remember taking a picture of that on the TV, like, that is fascinating, you know, 0%. So, you know, it was absolutely useless to vote for him. So, you know, I went to the polling station with him and just, you're going to vote for Mitt Romney, right? And like, I don't know, I hope he watches this tonight and finds out, like, in his soul, I lied to you, dude. I lied to you so hard. I went into that little polling booth and I voted for Gary Johnson. You know, and that was the last time that I voted. I have had no inclination to do anything to do with that whatsoever. You know,
I've never even voted one time because I've always known that it was shit.
Yeah, no, I actually registered to vote originally to be like, you know, I need to be knowledgeable about what the superintendent of the schools is in my local community, or my sheriff and stuff like that. But, you know, it got to the point it's ridiculous. But Colorado actually publishes all of your personal identifying information if you register to vote. So that's considered public information, and people can actually request that information. They can actually request voter registrations. Right. So there's a third party that publishes everybody's addresses here in Colorado.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
the doxing, the great doxing.
The great doxing.
Yeah.
So I don't do that anymore. I won't even register to vote. You can't find me. You probably could find me. I'm pretty available. But I'm also not that afraid of people these days. So just be aware that you know, people should probably be more afraid of me than I am of them. You know, just give me a reason.
I know, right?
So I try and be calm these days, you know, but you knew me after my prominent days of Angel at Apocalypse Ball, you know. So I'm all about that, you know, and I try and be peaceful, you know. I have that, you know, vengeance, wrath, great flood side to me.
Yeah.
And also, like, man, shit, like, the world is filled with a bunch of people who just wanted to live their lives, you know. They're victims, and we can't continue to just let them not know what's going on, because that's the issue. You know, it's not just that people don't want to know, it's also that they don't actually know, and they're scared. And so, you know, we're at that point where, like, I'm at that point where I have to accept the fact that, you know, some people just aren't going to want to learn.
Well, we've either got to be a savior, or we're just talking a bunch of shit.
Yeah, you know, and I actually just want people to
figure it out for themselves. Figure it out.
That's how they're gonna come to it, and that's how
Yeah.
anybody. It's always got to be you.
It's always got to be you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
there's going to
You
be
know?
something. There's going to be
That's what I'm
something
hoping.
that'll catch them. Something that, and it takes something different for everybody to because based on what people, their own desires, their own wants in life and stuff like that. And then whenever they realize that all of those wants and desires have been controlled by some people that have been just fucking with them for all these years, But the main problem with that though, is that they don't want to do anything. They don't want to know anything about it because they can't do anything about it. And so this is where I was going to lead this one thing earlier that I was talking about. I was going to lead that to this right here, is that I've found that if I don't give a fuck about it, if I don't care about it,
It just doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter, because you know what? If I give them too much thought these days, then I'm giving them authority.
Yes.
And I don't know what they have seeded, what kind of seeds they put out there, because I catch on to things and I'm very, 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 very smart about finding out, like figuring out their agendas and their little strategies and everything, even the tiniest little teeny little strategies and stuff like that. And I can just see it. I can see it with a plain view.
Me too.
Just like if I have a magnifying glass.
I told my mom, like, I don't know what the deal is with me if I was like a war strategist in a past life, but I can see it like so clearly. It's pretty unbelievable. And yes, even the smallest little agendas, I can see it from miles away. And I think I toy with myself sometimes when I'm like, well, let's just see if they do it, and it's like, damn, they did it,
Yeah. What's really weird?
I don't know. It's like my own sick form of entertainment for myself since I don't watch TV very much.
It's almost like it's in our genes.
In our genes, well, you don't say.
It's almost like it's in our DNA. You know what I mean?
I do. All right. On that note, I'm going to get.
It takes one to know one, right?
2.5 hours. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I had a lot of fun.
Maybe that's why it is. Maybe that's why we see it, and that's why, like, I can go anywhere in the fucking world, and I can tell who's a Jew and who's not.
Yeah, I know. No,
I can see it in their whole demeanor. I can see, even if they don't even know.
I literally cannot get away from this whenever I'm at work. If I have elderly Jewish men around me, they will come up to me and ask me if my kitchen is kosher. They'll
Well, you know why?
It's straight away. They know.
Well, one of the things about what you have, and I think what it is there's different strains of us. Okay, that's what it is. And I noticed that if you look in the mirror, watch how your eyelids do. All right.
Yeah.
Your eyelids will cover like half of the top of your eye.
Yeah.
And it gives it almost like a dead eye stare look. All right.
Yeah.
It really does.
Oh, let me tell you about how much my stepdad growing up hated my dead eye stare.
but it's characteristic. It's
Rachel,
101 characteristic.
Rachel, you have ruined yet another family photo. How are you 7 years old and you look like you're high? I mean, now I'm high all the time.
Well, but that's the thing, is like my ex-girlfriend, I knew she was her family was Jewish because she had the same thing, said the same thing. Her mom had it.
Well, that's what I mean.
If you look at rabbis, you can see it. You can see it everywhere.
No, but that's what I mean. My grandmother talks about it. It's undeniable in my family. We come
kind of like the evil eye from the gypsies.
I'm a gypsy.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it
know.
just is what it is.
Some of your family is back from Bulgaria.
Yeah, and Lithuania,
Yeah,
you know,
all those
and
areas like
so
that. That's like been real big with as far as like the gypsy thing,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that was part of. I don't know that I can't really figure out exactly what that was part of yet, but that was part of because this is something I've been trying to figure out. Okay, and it's been bugging me so freaking bad I can't stand it. All right. I'm looking at Spanish because I know that the Jewish people colonized the Spanish. Okay, so I'm seeing Spanish in a lot of the Jewish people that I know. All right, but I'm also seeing the Roman
okay,
in them also. I'm also seeing like some like African-y blacky kind of thing. And that's like the ones that have the afros, the natural growing afros. You know what I mean? The guys who have the natural growing, the ones
yeah,
that's not.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I mean, my hair gets curly whenever it starts getting long, stuff like that. But it's not like
okay,
afro-y kind of curly. You know what I mean?
all right,
But the thing is that I see it in that. I see it in the Persians, but also I see the one strain of Jews that come from the Arabians with their noses, the big fucking crooked nose like that. You know what I mean? Like really big. Like, but those also are the ones that were in France. And it's the
right.
reason why, their attitudes, the way that they thought is the reason why everybody always thought that French people were just so fucking
Snobbery,
uppity and snobby and shit like
snobbery,
that.
yeah,
Yeah. And it's
yeah,
because
for
it was their Jewish background. All right.
Yeah, no, I come from the prominent Berkman family.
Right. See, I'm a Burns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Kind of like Mr.
So
Burns.
yeah. Well, this was a fun conversation,
Yeah.
2.5 hours long.
Right.
Tracy, I don't know if you wanted to join. Yona and I are going to have a meeting tomorrow for the revolution.
I have
Sure.
got to work tomorrow. I don't know because I
Oh
just
yeah,
started my
you got a
job.
new job.
Yeah.
Congratulations. What are you doing?
Thanks. I'm actually installing what they call DOS cables,
Wait,
systems where they
I'm
where
sorry.
I'm
What are you doing?
distributed antenna systems.
DOS cables? Is that what you said?
DAS. DAS.
Oh.
Distributed
They're always
antenna.
coming up with a new spelling of my last name. I was just worried.
But unfortunately,
The
we help
DOS
install
program.
5G networks in buildings.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
So I'm
Just
going to be
curious.
part of that. Huh?
Cool. Good for you. Good for you. That's
That's
awesome.
not good because
Why?
everything that I've been doing has been like for Uncle Brother. You know what I mean? Like Uncle Sam type
Yeah.
things. You know, like access
Yeah.
control,
No, I get it.
like lockdown,
Yeah.
the camera systems, which is like everywhere that I've
Oh, I know.
installed.
Yeah, no,
You
it's
know?
literally everywhere. It's in your shower head.
Yeah,
It's
and so
everywhere.
now I'm in the 5G network, and that's fine. I've known that for a long time, and I've shown people
Yeah.
everything.
That's what I mean. I mean, it's something that I've had to come to terms with myself, and this will be the last thing that I'll talk about, I swear. But it's something I've had to come to terms with myself. I hate technology. This is not a joke. I think that it comes from my experience with technology in some other facets, other
My grandmother says from the
dimensions.
devil.
Yeah, where like I can feel the impending doom as technology advances. And so I don't like technology, the primitive anarchist in me agrees. And so I've never been interested in it, and I'm completely technologically illiterate for the most part. It actually is a struggle for me to do things like Zoom, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to understand it, to be honest with you. It's just not something in my brain that clicks. It's
Right.
like my weakness. But yeah, man, I don't know. I don't think that there's any way to fight it at this point, unless we
It's always been something that really clicked for me since I was a kid.
yeah.
I've been good with technology.
Me
I'm a little
too.
rusty now, but because
Yep.
I just don't the
Nope.
meme being on the
I'm
move all the
I'm totally in the dark here.
Well,
So, and I know
listen. I think this is one of the things, okay, is that, and I don't know how to really reconcile this, is the fact that Jewish people are the leaders in technology. They are the leaders in everything, every industry, how do you stay on top of the latest thing throughout history, above and beyond the smartest people in the fucking world, anybody else that's really smart, and be able to stay there and be able to even go up on TED Talk.
well,
and
it's controlled release. They've had, this is what I mean. They have technology to hack God, right?
That must be because, but the thing is like us,
Fine.
that all of us that's sitting right here right now, all right, we've got superpowers in a way.
Yeah.
We've got things that other people can't see. We see things that people can't see. We know things that people don't know. We understand things in ways that other people can't understand them, and we'll never probably will ever be able to. So here we are. It's almost like we are misappropriated in this whole agenda, because
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because
it's almost like God's fail safe.
like a weird thing, yeah. Like there's
You know
gotta
what
be
I'm
some
saying?
of them
Like
that's good.
he was like, okay, if the earth ever gets hacked, this program's gonna be released. And that's what happened. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's honestly like, because sometimes it's hard for me to sleep at night too, thinking about all this shit. You know what I'm saying? So I sit here and I'm just like, what is going on here? What is the purpose? Why do I keep waking up at 4:44? Like,
Why do you give a rat's ass about all these idiotic people out there that
Right.
don't care about their lives and don't care enough to research?
Yes.
Why do we give
They
a
don't
rat's
care
ass
about
about
their
it?
own lives, and they actually like lie about me, ridicule. They try to say that I'm insane constantly.
All while falling
the
for
message
it.
is she's
So-
crazy. Don't listen to her. She
So
is crazy.
what the hell are we thinking?
Seriously.
Why are we thinking about trying to stop it? Because the thing is, this is like, in my mind, I've got an idea of how things are supposed to be. All right. I look at life and I think of how things are supposed to be beneficial, because I've been taught these kind of things in my life. I've seen it in my life, and I've experienced it and I've appreciated it in my life. So beneficial things to everybody, nice to everybody, and stuff like that. And I think it in my mind, but then whenever I go out to Walmart and I see these motherfuckers grabbing up all the toilet paper that they can grab for a virus, and I'm like, why
Never mind.
would I? Why? Yeah, never, y'all. Look, I was gonna save y'all's asses, but I'm not gonna save you anymore, y'all.
So
Y'all
here's
are
the
beyond
thing.
saving.
I'm not doing it for the middle-aged guy who doesn't give a fuck and does whatever he wants. I'm doing it for their kids, for my kids, you know. Why in the world? What kind of mother would I be if I just kicked the can on down to the next generation? I'm sorry, I don't want to deal with this. It's your turn. That's shameful behavior. That's shameful behavior, and it should be shamed. And you know what? I really don't care at this point if people like me or not for it. That is what it's all about. Why in the world would I bring innocent human beings into this world and then turn around and let them just get completely fucked? That's ridiculous.
There's that
is
dead look.
ridiculous.
There's that dead eye look right there.
It'd be like that. Just
You know what?
like that.
you know? And
Yeah.
so that is what it comes down to. That's what it boils down to. That's why I speak out. It's literally nothing to do. I had somebody today say, you like the attention. Oh, hell no, I don't. I literally sat in the woods and minded my business for the last 6 years. And close friends will tell you this, this is verifiable. But after sitting here and being told, well, just wait, hold on, we're not ready, we don't know what we're gonna do, I couldn't sit here and do absolutely nothing.
Trust
I don't
operation.
I don't own a plane, so I can't just like go flying off into an IRS building,
No. But one thing
so
we can do though is we can
I
wait.
admire that guy. I
We
gotta
can
be
get my
honest with
sailboat.
you.
We can get my sailboat. All right. And all of us can get on the sailboat and head off somewhere
Yes,
because the main thing is there's a lot of places around the world that aren't getting hit with all this shit.
right.
It's the
right.
white places that are getting hit.
No, absolutely. No, that's I have been discussing this recently. It's amazing how it's America.
Yeah.
It's just America.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's time to set sail for the island. We've all got a ticket to the island,
Yes.
and so
And believe me, I'm going to sell this camper.
yeah,
The only reason why I even have this job right now, all right,
yeah,
is to pay for the things to get this camper back, ready, so that way I can sell it and buy one of those things. And my whole solar system thing is going with me. That way I
Yeah.
still have electricity wherever I go. It's like
Yep.
that, And,
yeah. No, I have solar and stuff. A lot of people think I'm not living that life. I
Right.
have a lot of new friends here recently who are like, why don't you just go off grid and like do your thing, man? And I'm pretty there. I'm as prepared as I'm going to get. And at this point in time, it's time for me to just now speak out. So that's where I'm at. And
Well, maybe what we should
people
do
are really
is
mad at me about it and thought I'd be quiet. That I do have a lot of haters online. Shout out to the ANCAP community in pretty much its entirety. And so
what is an ANCAP? I don't even know what an ANCAP is.
yeah, an ANCAP, and I'm gonna be nice about this. I'm gonna be real nice about this and like as succinct as I can. An anarcho-capitalist believes
Oh.
in the private ownership of business and economic
Okay.
practices,
Right.
so that they can practice their own principles. I'm being really nice about this, without government interference. Okay, so essentially, ANCAPs to me are a bunch of bullies who tell you you better get under my hierarchy or else. And I have experienced their or else's in the form of being doxxed about 4 times. I've experienced it in regards to slander and defamation, things that just are blatantly and completely untrue about me. I've literally had them hold committee hearings where they all gather together and vote on whether I'm a communist or not. This is actually the very specific reason why I left like political discussion online, is because of having to deal regularly with ANCAPs. Like I removed myself and continued living a very fabulous life. And so, here I am re-entering this arena and once again continuing to deal with them. I don't even understand how they think they can get away with this, but essentially, like what you said, where you can see the patterns. What it comes down to at this point for me, when you see me instantly block somebody and they go talk about me because they love drama,
Right.
I've actually dealt with them in the past and I know specifically what their patterns are. And I'm waiting for them to expose their patterns to other people. And I'm waiting for the other psychopaths to congregate around them and also expose themselves for who they really are. Unlike them, I'm actually creating in my mind and, a list of allies. That is what my goal is on Facebook. So I'm not here to please a bunch of assholes. I'm here to find my clan, you
Right.
know? And so I have standards for that. And there are going to be people who are not going to meet those standards. I've had people literally friend me on this new account who have been on slander campaigns against me, who actually started a campaign saying I was another woman for about 2 years. And then he tried to friend request me and I just immediately blocked him. Like, there's no way in my entire life I would ever friend the dude who lied about me and created an entire campaign against me under anarcho-capitalism. I'm just not going to do it. So that is why I'm not in ANCAP, even though I own my own business and I actually have a lot of foundational principles that ANCAPs say make me an ANCAP, but I'm not, because I don't have the same social outreach that they do. Okay, so their social outreach is what makes them unmarketable. They believe in a hierarchy, they believe in bullying, they believe in ostracizing, and I don't really necessarily believe that for people, unless it were to be like extreme cases like, you know, Congress's criminality. You know, those are the type of people I see to be ostracized. I don't see somebody who mildly disagrees with your economic principles should be ostracized from the entire community. That's just, it's completely absurd. And because I've been speaking on this since about 2014, ANCAPs in particular hate me because I have pointed out over and over again the significant flaw behind their ideology. And the significant flaw is how they act in their society. There's no way to get around it. And they have rebranded as voluntarists, which I've been a voluntarist for nearly a decade. So it's pretty offensive to watch them basically smear and slander, you know, a very good ideology insofar as, you know, people should be allowed to voluntarily interact and they don't deserve to be ostracized if they decide to walk away from an interaction.
Right.
You know? It's a little absurd that you're doing that. You know, and so that's why ANCAPs and I don't get along. We also don't get along because I extensively have, you know, discussed the difference between private property, public property, and personal property. And I've also discussed the origins of property law. You know, it actually comes from the East India Trading Company and the Committee of 300. So, you know, when discussing that years ago, I mean, literally years ago, that was when ANCAPs really started to hate me because their whole foundation of I get to own everything, you know, it falls apart pretty hardcore when that happens. So.
This thing just went on.
It's blurry. Oh, the maiden.
Yeah, and
Yona. Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
So I put all those.
Yeah, I'll go on there. So, all right. Well, thanks for listening to me rant about ANCAPs for a second. You know, I have gotten along with ANCAPs. You know, there's a lot of ANCAPs and I that do get along because we do, you know, there's a lot of people who share the same principles as me in regards to agorism. You know, so it's not like I hate every ANCAP. It's not like I'm like prejudiced against ANCAPs. I just know to be cautious with them when they come up to me because they do have like, I don't know, presupposed value of other anarchists who are not ANCAPs. We're automatically ANCOMs. And I'm not, actually. I don't care. I'm just fine living by myself. You're not going to see me be like, hey, you guys, we're going to have to make this community. You know, you might see me say, hey, you guys, if you want to make this community, you know, but I'm certainly not going to tell people that they have to opt out of the community. They don't have to opt out. They don't even, that's their life. They don't even have anything to do with it. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand how that's a thing. It's literally opting people in without their explicit agreement for ANCAPs to say something like that. And then they say I'm a psychopath.
Looks like Scientology.
The whole duality consciousness that we're trying to evolve out of.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely, and I want that, that's what I want. I'm more about people coming together and being like, hey, the divine in me recognizes the divine in you. There's no reason for us. And this is why ANCAPs get mad at me, because I have been able to express and visualize a way and a means to a society that doesn't even require an economic system. Beyond that, they literally say that the economic system is made up and imaginary. It's made up and imaginary, you guys. They're literally blatant about it. And the way that our political system is designed creates this imaginary structure.
Yeah.
And if we get rid of our political paradigm, there is literally no need for an imaginary economy. It doesn't exist. It's a post-capitalist world that I have
Picture from
envisioned.
Jekyll Island.
Yes, so it's a post-capitalist world that I've envisioned. And ANCAPs hate that, because their whole ideological structure is based on capitalism, and it's not even necessary in the way that I see the world. You know what I'm saying? So they get really angry when I speak out, and this is understandable, and it's fine. But that's reality. And I think that other people are allowed to hear this perception, and so I'm not going to stay quiet because people bully me. It's just not going to happen. And it makes me feel like they're suspect. Why are you fighting so hard to maintain this system of control? If you're really for freedom, why are you fighting so hard to maintain this particular system of control?
Right.
That's all.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's a whole other story right there too. That's another conversation, because
It is
I'm
for next
telling
Thursday, you guys.
yes. I gotta get to bed. I gotta wake up tomorrow. And
Me
go to
too.
work.
All right. Okay. I love you guys. Thanks so much for being on here.
Hey, don't forget, go Tracy's.
Oh, I
on.
will. Don't
get
worry.
the-
I will. Oh no,
because
I'm excited.
I'm telling you, whenever you read this stuff, it's going to right there. What you're doing, you're reading some guy's opinion of what you're about to read.
That sounds great. Okay. Thank you.
That's what you're about to do. That's the best explanation for it.
Awesome. All
All
right.
right.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night, y'all.
No.